everybody, then we'll
more than
close it.
Okay, I'm calling apart.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, before we call the meeting to order, I'll have Councillor Brown offer our opening prayer, please.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we're so humble and grateful to come before you this day. We're thankful for all the many blessings that thou hast given to this community. We'd ask a special blessing this day upon the Forsyth family as they have lost their husband and father. Bless their family with comfort, that they may feel this community's love and support. We're thankful for the opportunity we've been given to represent people of Cardston. Help us that we may be able to represent them well. We're grateful for all we have, and we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Welcome the people in the gallery, Delbert, and it's Josh?
Yes.
Josh? Glad to have you here. Welcome to our media. Corey from Channel 32 and Bill Creed here for the newspaper, The Star. Glad to have you all here. So we'll call the meeting to order now. Are there going to be any additions or to the agenda you have before you there? If you have any, let me know.
I may ask to add something on the 7E. It has to do with South Grove.
7G?
7E.
7E.
It's a South Grove request. I just want to pass it by you.
Okay. Any others? You've read over that, okay. Someone
Make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
okay. All in favor? Gerry, okay. First order of business then will be to have Delbert and Chief Mountain Gas Co-op come forward and give us your presentation, and you can make the formal introductions. The floor is yours. Want to move that over? You can.
No, that's fine. Thank you. You'll need to turn around. The slideshow's behind you. I guess you're used to that.
All right, now I just gotta get it going here.
At least you got the right page, Jeff.
Well, sort of. I got partially the right page.
So we normally come to all the municipalities' councils after an election just to answer questions or explain who we are. Many of the new council members don't know what Chief Mountain Gas Co-op is, and so we serve 4 municipalities with gas service: the MD of Cardston, MD of Pincher Creek, Cardston County, I should say. Sorry, old MD name. Cardston County, MD of Pincher Creek, MD of Willow Creek, and also the MD of Branchlands. And then we also do work in Fort McLeod, Cardston, Pincher Creek, McGrath, Raymond as major centers. Hill Spring, Glenwood, of course, the smaller villages we do work too. So we always try to make a point of trying to visit new councils just to make them aware. This year we had a couple of councils didn't have any council changes, so we didn't need to go back and explain ourselves again. So anyway, just got a short slideshow here just to show some.
We're just getting a strange screen on it here, Delbert,
Okay.
so
All right.
you may just be telling Alex to go next, and then we'll do that for you.
Well, that'll work. I used to help change his diapers, so I think it'll be.
That's a little much, but okay.
It's too much information.
He's hiding back there, so.
We'll go ahead in this format and just tell
So
him the next one.
the gas co-op program was established in 1973. Premier Lougheed at the time wanted all of Alberta to be served by natural gas. So we went to the 2 major utilities at the time were Northwestern Utilities and Canadian Western Utilities that served most of the towns and villages. They put gas into most of the province in the late 50s into the major urban areas, and so Premier Lougheed wanted all of Alberta to have gas, and so he went to those 2 major utilities and he said, tell us your area, your defined area, and we're going to give the rest of the province up to member-owned cooperatives to serve the gas. So there was originally just under 100 gas co-ops formed in 1972-73. We're down to 82 now because of amalgamations. Some of the smaller co-ops got together and amalgamated, which we're one of those. So 73, they started the gas co-op program, and it was a community-based program. Farmers and ranchers formed a board of directors. They went door to door, signed up customers, got the easements for the right-of-ways. They did all of that as a startup organization. I could give you some ideas in the community here. It'd be like an ag society or a soccer park or whatever. It takes initiative to get started. But there was a group of people that were interested in having lower cost, beneficial, and no lack of service, natural gas service. So the Chief Mountain Gas Co-op was started in Carson County, and we got a map a little later showed. In 2002, we amalgamated with Summerview Gas Co-op, which is over by Pincher Creek, and they had previously amalgamated with Livingston Gas Co-op, which is up Highway 22 near Maycroft. So we serve, we're one of the only co-ops that serves a U.S. customer, the Port of Paygan. We serve on the U.S. side, and we also serve Waterton Lakes National Park. We currently have 1,669 service risers. As customers we provide natural gas service to. Next slide, Alex. We're a natural gas distributor. We have 10 miles of high-pressure steel lines, 60 miles of high-pressure aluminum lines, and countless miles of polyethylene plastic service lines. We offer 100% burner tip service. We have since 1973 to our customers, meaning that we will come and fix your furnace, your fireplace, your cook stove, whatever gas appliance you have, sell and install them. We've done that in our co-op area. I mentioned the counties and Waterton Park already. We work closely with ATCO and Alta Gas in adjoining franchise areas. So ATCO here in Cardston, they drew a line around Cardston. It's usually the town boundaries, and we can't go into town to serve anybody, and they can't come outside of town to serve anybody. So,
Yep. But you can sell your products to town people.
No.
You can.
Well,
Stoves
our heating products we
Yeah.
can, yeah. Natural gas we can't.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Next slide. So we have, as I mentioned, the membership. The co-op is a member-owned business. It's a member-owned cooperative. We have 1,154 members. That's some of the industries and customers we serve to. We're run by a board of directors. We have 9 directors. Josh is one of our directors here, just to back me up tonight if you guys get too tough. Josh is one of the first Hoodwright directors we've had. Many of the co-ops in the province had Hoodwright directors originally, but Josh is the first Hoodwright director we have. We serve 16 colonies with natural gas service. So we felt it was good to have a voice on the board. Next slide. That's just our website, if you want to look at it. Next slide is what it looks like. So you can see that small map there. That's the dark green is our service area. So all of Carson County and sections of the MD of Pincher Creek, Willow Creek, and ranch lands, and then Waterton Park that we service. Next slide.
Ranchlands, that's that area
Straight up to the north.
southwest of
Yeah.
Grantham there?
Yeah, northwest of Grantham. That's just our contact information, and it has that. We divide our area up into zones. You can get the next slide. So we have Zone 1, which is our Pincher Creek customers, and those are our 3 board members from over there. Ed Jansen lives in the Summerview area, which is just north of Glenwood. He's our chairman. Next slide. This is our directors from Carson County, the west side of Carson County and Waterton Park. So Josh is one of those 3. Tim Forsyth was recently elected in December as a board member. It's him who lost his son in the accident. So next slide. And that's our McGrath, Del Bonita, 3 members from that area. So as mentioned, Chief Mountain is our namesake, and there's a lot of history with Chief Mountain. It can be seen from just about all of our co-op area except up in Maycroft. You can't quite see it. It looks a little different from up there. Next slide. So like I said, we sell all heating appliances. Blackstone is a product that we're actually the distributor for that product in Canada. pizza ovens, griddles, and some other cooking accessories. Next slide. Broil King, we're also a dealer for Broil King. So if you need a barbecue, you know where to come. And the next slide. Like I said earlier, water heaters, furnaces, fireplaces, anything to do with natural gas, we sell and install and service. That's currently our staff. Last September, we bought an HVAC business in Pincher Creek. So we have 5 employees over there that help us with service that area over there. But we have a lot of employees and we do good work, and we're proud of the work we do as a cooperative. Anyways, we just felt, like I said earlier, that it's crucial that councils understand who we are. Chief Mountain Gas Co-op may not come up on your agendas only once, and that will be if the town wants to start annexing land. And I would strongly suggest that, I don't care if you annex, but make us the service provider in that annexed area. We have a franchise agreement with MD of Carson for the areas around McGrath and Carson, which is the same as your franchise agreement that you have with ATCO Gas. The Alberta government, for some reason, doesn't think it's a legal document, but the county does, and so do we. So that's the only way we lose customers, is if you annex. We get a $40 an acre payment from ATCO, and the customers are all turned over to them. So it's not a win-win for the gas co-ops. The gas co-ops around the major centers, Lethbridge, Calgary, Red Deer, are losing hundreds of acres every year through annexation. So anyways, thank you. I'm welcome to answer any questions if you've got them. We've been in Carson since 1973. Had an office on Main Street by the old pool hall when they started. The pool hall's no longer there. The building is still there. We were an office in. I think Gerry Quinton owns it now, just north of Dease, Texaco. That was where we are starting. And then we bought where we currently are, and this last year we just added on a new shop and new office area. So welcome you to come down and look at it. I think some of you were there for the open house, so we get the gift of having Gerry around more than once. His wife works for us. So anyways, thank you again for letting us come in.
Thank you. Is there any questions of anybody?
Just comment that if we could get the Chief Mountain Gas Co-op to service the town, we'd like that, just because their service fees are cheap.
We're currently the lowest price gas provider in North America. And so everybody wants our gas service. But I'll give you a little bit of history. A number of years ago, Greg Burt was as administrator, and your franchise agreement came due to be signed. So Greg asked if we'd be interested, and I said absolutely, we're interested. We currently provide the town of Carson gas service in the winter months. We have ATCO put a line in a number of years ago to get gas from us because their Lethbridge system will not provide enough in the high load season. So we do keep you warm in the winter already, but ATCO does it through their line. But at that time, ATCO said, yes, you can, we'll do it, but the town has to buy the system, and ATCO gives an exorbitant price for their system. And Greg came back to me and said, this is what they want. I think it was 10 million or something. And I said, I'll give you all new lines for $10 million, because most of those old lines are steel. They've been in the ground for 40 years, and they're going to need to be replaced at some point. But the town didn't want to go that route, so we would have been interested, like Gerry said. So some night if you wake up really cold, your Chief Mountain got mad and shut the gas off.
So you'll be getting the phone calls.
Just from ATCO.
We'll come and visit your house. We won't phone you.
There you go, yeah. Get that all the time. So. Again, thank you for letting us come.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Next item we have on here is a presentation by Alex Scalp on the Chautauqua. And that would be great if you're ready, Alex.
I think I gave Jeff one of
We have it in our packet.
I think he gave one more extra piece of paper. I'm not sure if it was
Oh.
included in the packet. It just looks like this.
No, we don't.
No, they're right over here. I will give you those. Take one and pass them on. Thank you. So what that document is, that is the schedule of events that's proposed right now for the town of McGrath for Chautauqua this year. Chautauqua in its first year, which was 2 years ago in 2016, was in all 4 communities, 1 day in each community. Since then, the committee decided last year to change it and do 2 communities per year. So each year it'll be in Cardston, McGrath, and then Raymond and Sterling. And pardon?
1 day each? Just
Yeah, 1 day each. So 1 day in Cardston, 1 day in McGrath, and then the next year it'll be in 1 day in Raymond, 1 day in Sterling. The live production will alternate through the 4 various communities, and it may be held in Cardston every 3 years, but it will be about a different community each year.
What's the date on this one, Alex?
It is June 15th and 16th. That's the Friday, Saturday.
So the morning in McGrath is June the 15th?
No.
The 16th is
16th?
McGrath's. And then Cardston is Friday. So Cardston's Friday, and then McGrath would be the Saturday.
On
next.
Saturday.
But the production runs from the 8th to the 16th.
Yeah, the production will be the Friday, Saturday, the week previous to Chautauqua, all the way up until the next Friday, Saturday for Chautauqua. I believe that's,
And it will be presented here in our community.
it will be in the Civic Center, correct. We've got that booked currently at this time, and everything's set up to go on that end. So as it says on your sheet that was handed out to you with your packet, it just says, experience the revival of this unique historic traveling roadshow, engage in education, cultural arts, and recreational and spiritual exploration, explore new ideas, embrace local culture, and enjoy interactive activities. So Cardston for this year, I am the administrative support for the Chautauqua Committee, and then I believe Councillor Court is on the Mormon Trail Committee. And it's important to know the difference between the two. The Mormon Trail Committee puts on the Chautauqua, and then the Chautauqua is a subcommittee or subgroup from the Mormon Trail. Now, to make the Chautauqua happen each year, there's a large amount of volunteer work that gets done to put this on. Quite a substantial amount, actually. I've brought some things that we can pass around just to give us some more information on the events that happen. Just 1 second.
Speaking of volunteers, I understand you need quite a few more volunteers, is that correct?
Well, there's empty
That's the
spots on
case.
that list, as you can see.
From what I understand, we need about 8 more, 6 to 8 more.
Give or take. You'll see that on your sheet as well. So as it currently stands, we have myself that's over the Chautauqua marketing portion of the committee. What initially happened was, just to reverse it a little bit here, there was a Chautauqua committee that consisted of about 12 people or so. They would meet around a round table, and they'd do that every 2 weeks to a month and make decisions for Chautauqua, make it happen, do all of these different things in that one big group. So this year they proposed that they have, I believe it's 6 subcommittees that are to meet together, decide what they need to do to make Chautauqua happen, and then they report back with one representative from their subcommittee to their main committee for Chautauqua. So that's the change this year, and it's turning into a lot of committees. But you'll see on the sheet we have Bill Peaboy, who has volunteered to do the Chautauqua's Got Talent portion. This was new last year, and it was a big hit in McGrath and Raymond. So I'm sure that most of you are familiar with America's Got Talent. It is similar to that. It's promoting culture, it's promoting the arts, all sorts of different sporting abilities that you have. It's any sort of talent that you have, you can put it on in this talent contest. And there's cash prizes of up to $3,500, it says on here as well. So Cardston will be the Friday night, which will be the first night. You'll have 25 contestants that will be competing in Chautauqua's Got Talent. And then the next night in McGrath, you'll have your final 10. Other than Chautauqua's Got Talent, you'll see Chautauqua Education, There's Kim Peaboy, that's Bill Peaboy's wife. I believe that's a spelling mistake, but I'm not certain.
Oh, that's right. I think.
Okay. It was spelled Kimberly, K-I-M on something else I checked, but it must have been wrong. So she's over the education part as for now. I'm sure we're going to need somebody else to support her and help develop the educational activities that will be put on in Cardston for the Friday. There's also activities that are separate from education. Oh, I was going to pass this out just to bring some light as to the different activities that
Did you
happen.
pass those other sheets out?
I did.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Oh. I don't know if I did this one wrong.
There's list several here.
Pardon?
You do list several here, some of the activities that are.
Yeah, and then you can just look on here to see the hour by hour. So that first form was the 2016, the first Chautauqua, and then this form is Raymond and Sterling on the other side, and you can see some of the activities that are there. The activities will range from horse rides to wagon rides, petting zoos. They've done some
Carriage rides.
carriage rides. They've done branding. There's all sorts of different activities that get put on in there each year, and that's where this huge army of volunteers is needed, because to run these 30-plus events, it takes a lot of manpower. For the Chautauqua marketing portion of it, we have the Chautauqua Committee has hired on Jerem Scott to do a large portion of the marketing effort. They hire him out, and he's done a great job each year. Last year, they thought about maybe not hiring him on, and they went a different route. And very quickly, they realized that was a mistake, and they got Jerry back in there. And he put it all together last minute, did a great job. And so this year, we knew to go to him right off the start, and he's done a great job again. For the Ranch Rodeo, this is also another big piece. And just to break it down, the Got Talent and the Chautauqua Ranch Rodeo are two of the biggest events that happen. And I think ongoing, those are your two biggest ones for potential growth, to get more revenue and to get more people aware of what's going on. In the Chautauqua Ranch Rodeo, they do a colt breaking challenge, where I think about 10 ranchers take on a colt, and then over a period of a month or two, I think it's 3 months maybe, they try and break the colt and get it rideable, and then they do a demonstration in front of all of these other ranchers or farmers. And they usually sell the horses for a substantial profit at the Chautauqua. This year, Mayor Jim Depew from Raymond, I think, is assisting McGrath, because that'll be going on the Saturday. And so we need to just have some support from Cardston to kind of assist them in making that activity happen. Courtney Hansen was a name that I believe Councillor Court got me, and
The Agrodome came up with that.
Yeah,
the
we did.
Agrodome came up
Yeah.
with it. Okay. And so that's a good representation that we'll have there. From attending the Chautauqua committee meetings, they've just been saying that they really want to make sure that Cardston is having a hand in Chautauqua and isn't sitting on the back burner. I'm slightly nervous about a couple of the things. Last year I attended the Chautauqua in Sterling on the Friday, and I was there for about an hour or two, around 3 p.m. or so, and I noticed that the numbers were very, very small. Now mind you, it was windy, but I just found that in those hours where school was still going on, that you didn't get high numbers for those events. As soon as it was end of school, end of work, you had tons of people that were coming out to the Chautauqua's Got Talent, to the Colt Breaking Challenge on Saturday. And so I kind of mentioned to the committee that it would be wise to maybe reduce the amount we're doing during those hours and try and pack it all in from 3 to 6 or something like that.
School is out at noon.
On the
On
Friday,
Friday.
yeah. Councillor.
Alex, maybe this could be co-answered by yourself and Councillor Court, but the Mormon Trail was a tourism initiative driven group, and Chautauqua come from Mormon Trail. Is that the only thing that the Mormon Trail has done so far in bringing tourists into this area? And I mean, this is a great program, but it's a very costly program also. And are we getting our money's worth?
To answer your first question, we're working on signage for different historical locations right now.
Well, we were working on signage 4 years ago.
Now they're still working
Yeah,
on
well,
it
Yeah.
it
now.
takes a lot of work.
They
to
seem to be
sign.
more determined, we'll say, this year.
Okay.
And then there's another.
We had
piece
the
as
church
well.
involved in a little bit. We tried to get the church involved because of their signage, you know.
They're still working on that
Okay.
aspect too.
There's another program that they're working in this year. They've, I don't know the proper term, they've set aside funding for an Alberta Innovation Tourism grant that Jeremy Scott's doing. And it's to develop visitor information centers, but just portable kiosks that are weatherproof for McGrath, Raymond, and Sterling. Cardston has the large information center currently, and so that was another piece that the Mormon Trails contributed to for the tourism fund.
To go back to your Chautauqua, which you're there to talk about,
Yeah.
how do you envision council helping you with the finding of volunteers?
My toughest part that I've found thus far with the Chautauqua is figuring out the appropriate volunteers to ask their help. Just because, though I have lived in Cardston for my life, it's just tricky for me to know those go-to people that are volunteering at all the events, just because I don't have the best relationships with that group of people at this point.
Okay, so here is a question I have for you. Have you sent through the social media maybe a request for volunteer for this particular event, or has that not been done yet?
We haven't done that yet, just in the, I want to word that appropriately, just to kind of filter out some people, no, not filter out some people, but just select the best people that we can first, and if they can't, then we look for the entire community.
Okay,
support.
so you have
I'm
an
wording that
idea,
too.
you have an idea. No, I understand what you're saying. You want the right people for the right venue. It totally makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that concept. So, but you already have a list, or is that something that needs to be developed yet?
I do have the list of names that were submitted, but I still feel that it needs further development, just to find those that are best tailored for each activity.
So how do you view council helping you? Do you want us to give you names and send them to you through our email and add them
That
to
could
your
very well
list and give you an idea of what their talent may be or how they could be useful to the community? Is that something that could be helpful to you?
Oh, definitely. That was kind of my thought or ask in creating this list, was just to see if council had some ideas for certain individuals that may fit these categories, and then you can
Okay.
email them like you said to me.
So if we at least were coming with 2 names each, you already should have 14 extra names.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hopefully they're not repeat of what you have.
Alex, then, let me address this situation with the Chautauqua. Chautauqua has 4 pillars. Do you feel that the 4 pillars of the Chautauqua could be covered in your programs? And the reason why I ask that is because there was a comment last year and the year before, it is becoming a family day. It's not an educational music experience, all that kind of stuff. It's becoming just one family day. Now, are we covering all 4 pillars of the Chautauqua?
We've discussed this in the Chautauqua committee meeting, and the one that was mentioned as maybe not being covered as well as the other ones was religion, specifically, just because they were worried about overdoing the religion portion of it and turning some people away potentially. So they've always been trying to hold back on how much they push that. It's kind of been not an argument, but a discussion both ways, that they can argue, well, we should have more of that because it's one of the 4 pillars, we have to represent it. And then the other side of the room will say, but we don't want to be pushing away the tourism that we're going to be creating from this.
Just as a reminder, Alex, for those who may be not aware what all the pillars are, do you want to just reread those?
You're making me test my knowledge.
Yeah.
Me too.
There's religion, I think culture,
History,
Education.
history,
And
education is
arts.
one.
arts
But
of all sorts.
We've got 4 at this point.
Aren't they written at the top of the document?
Yeah, it should be there.
Yeah, those would be the four.
Education, cultural arts, recreation, and spiritual.
Yeah, that's what it is.
They're written there.
You saved me.
Can I just ask?
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
So in our information, is this your list of people that you have, or are there other people that you're thinking about?
I have another list that we presented to council previously, and I've got in contact with a couple of them, and at this point, they've just given me the response of, yeah, I may be able to, let me know once you've got some more information for me, but they've kind of been set on the back burner just until we can have some hard asks for them.
So can you share that list with us so
Yeah.
that we're not approaching people twice if we want to?
Did you want me to share it here, or?
Well, no,
You
just
can pass
email
it
let
around.
you know before
Pass
you
it
around, whatever is best, is fine, I just.
I'm also wondering, would it be a good thing to start to approach the seniors when they have the seniors luncheon?
Yeah, that could be.
And to try to talk about that and let them know that there is a place for volunteers regarding different activities.
Different opportunities to volunteer. No, I think that could be a good idea. Just letting them know that
Because a
there
lot
will
of
be places
people
for
there
them.
have tons of talent and could probably still be very useful to the community for such an event.
Definitely.
A lot of times, people like that are just waiting to be asked because they're willing to.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, but they will not come forward unless they have a better sense of what is required and what exactly the time commitment is. They need to know all that, because seniors can probably give you an hour or 2 hours of their day, but maybe not 4 hours, maybe not 6 hours.
It's like I'd almost need to create I'm just thinking of a sheet where I can put certain names for certain activities almost.
Yeah, and
Give them a
time frame, because that is something with seniors, it's important to remember that their endurance needs to be taken into consideration.
When is the next seniors luncheon?
19th.
Pardon me?
19th.
The 19th, so that's next Monday, that's Family Day. And so what kind of a deadline do you have for needing these volunteers?
As soon as possible.
The sooner the better, yeah. That would be,
Because then maybe that would be, you might have something already planned for Family Day, but it's a good day because their luncheon's at noon. And they usually have a time slot in there where you can speak. If you is it Leonard Purnell that's still
Yeah.
conducting those meetings? You give him an advance notice, then he can put you on the agenda for a few minutes prior to, or during while they're eating, you know,
And
so.
I think the key would just be finding our 2 go-to people for each of the categories.
Yep.
And then kind of assigning them the role of, okay, now you'll be in charge of this category. So let's say it's Chautauqua Alive, for instance. They'll be our key representation for that category. But then when the actual production comes about, they'll need to get a handful of volunteers to take tickets, to be ushers, things like that
Keep in mind that we're working with people from McGrath as well.
as well.
Yeah.
But
anyways, just
our key is to
thoughts.
find those key people that'll be the
Yeah.
chief volunteers that will then delegate things accordingly.
Sounds good.
That's it? Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Had everything? Thank you very much, appreciate that. Okay, so moving on here to number 5, we have it in camera at 6:30, so we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. You've had a chance to read over the minutes of November 7th.
I make a motion to approve.
Mayor Kronen moved to accept the minutes, adopt the minutes. Any questions? All in favor? Okay. All right, so number 6, bylaw 1621. You have that in your packet there. Pardon me? Yeah, that's, I'm going to have Jeff talk to us on that, address that one. So if you would do that, Jeff, this time, that'd be great.
Sure. Not wanting to open up a can of worms.
However.
I'll deal with this very carefully. With the changes in the golf course, this came up, that how do we reconcile the bylaw with the town operationally funding the golf course? So the golf course has always been open on Sundays in its entire history. I don't know the genesis of this bylaw and how far back it goes. So I just wanted to have some real brief discussion as to whether we even want to touch this. Last time council chose to touch it simply by adding an amendment of or as approved by council. Frankly, it went bonkers.
The
in
world
community.
ended, just like that.
Yeah, 60 letters and delegations, and it went way out of hand, in my opinion. And so I don't want to do that again. I don't want to get people worked up unnecessarily. But we're going to have an operationally funded recreation facility with the town's funding, operating 7 days a week, which it always has, even probably when a bylaw similar to this was in place. So there's a couple ways we can go about it. We can simply add an amendment that says something like golf course accepted. Exception is the golf course, that's it. And when you amend a bylaw, the only thing up for debate generally is the amendment to the bylaw.
Yeah.
So if there was an argument about the golf course being accepted, then we can have that debate. So that's one way to deal with it. The other way, and I'll say this cautiously again, being it's recorded, is it's a bad bylaw, in my opinion, from a simple bylaw point of view. There's no fines for it, there's no punishment if you don't abide by it, and it's largely unenforceable. And you saw in my backgrounders, so the RCMP sees some people playing at a ball diamond on Sunday, and are they supposed to go enforce that? If we suspect someone is using the ball diamonds on a Sunday, should we have Brad work and try and find the shortstop? Or, like, I don't understand how that's going to be administered. So it's problematic at best. And really what I think the intent here is that we are not looking to staff certain facilities on Sunday. So we don't want to staff the ice rink. We don't want to staff the swimming pool. We don't want to staff ball diamonds. So that now is becoming a policy, not a bylaw. It's how we're going to staff.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure we want to go down that road of rescinding this, because you'll have an absolute, I don't know what the right word here is, but the people will get very uncomfortable with that whole idea.
You know, I found it interesting that the town, as Raymond, has a policy and does not have a bylaw regarding recreation facilities. Therefore, it is left up to administration to administer the programs and the recreation facility to the best advantage of the town, let's put it this way. And I find it interesting that the bylaw is in place that really causes more issues, because the practice that's happening violate the bylaw. And so how do you deal with it? How do you reconcile the fact you have a bylaw that is not lived to the letter of that bylaw, but the sheer fact that there is a precedent that was created way before the bylaw was even put in place? So that creates an issue for administration. I can see the difficulty, and from an enforcement perspective, how far do we go?
But I really believe when this bylaw was made, and I was part of it, there was a lot of misconceptions going on what was actually going to happen on that Sunday. I had phone calls on Sunday like crazy, asking about Sunday sports, which I found a little bit ironic, you know. And really the intent was not to open it up. The only intent at that particular time was our neighbors to the north were looking to play one day of the year with their Indian days. Nobody else was organizing anything on Sundays. And so it kind of got out there, and it kind of went a little wild, like you were saying. I also find it ironic that Raymond tried to open their skating rink on a Sunday, thought they'd get all these Lethbridge guys. They've since done that for economic reasons, not for anything else. McGrath still has their Kronen rink open on Sundays. And so they look at things a little bit different than we do. And I think that when this bylaw came out 5 years ago, that people just kind of got on the wrong trail. I don't want to see a lot of sports going on Sunday. That's not what I do. But I also think that we need to understand that other people don't think the same way as all of us. And we need to have that golf course open on Sunday. That we need to make some money off of it. That's one of our economic drivers that we are talking about.
Question.
Councillor Selk?
Honestly, in relation to what Councillor Court said, if members of the Blood Tribe wanted to have a game on the Ball Diamond on Sunday, would anyone care?
What's happening right now.
They're down there all the time.
So-
It's happening right now.
So
It's
why
just
don't
not
they-
organized.
So why don't they just go ahead and rent the Ball Diamond for the day or whatever it is they want to do?
Yeah, so where we find ourselves getting into
The
this
letter of
this
the
ball
law,
diamond
the
issue is
spirit of
we'll
it.
have a group come in and say, we want to do a tournament. Can we book the diamonds Friday, Saturday, Sunday? We say, no, you can't book them Sunday. Oh, well, we'll book them Friday, Saturday then. All right, and then they may or may not go finish Sunday. Some do, some don't. I wouldn't say it's universal, but I think we had 3 tournaments finish on a Sunday last year. I don't know, I didn't attend, but, and there was no real ramification for it, but we don't charge rent for it because we can't rent it to them.
And we don't have workers.
But we don't staff it either, and they know that.
Under the guise of good relations, couldn't we just say if the Blood Tribe wanted to rent Redford Park, that's a good thing. Let them play ball on Sunday. It's not going to affect anybody else in town.
Well, we rent it to them Friday, Saturday. If they play Sunday, they play Sunday. We're just not there. That's all. The bathrooms might not be open, and I mean, anybody that wants to go play ball on a Sunday, I mean,
Go ahead, Councillor Rob.
I think my problem is the justification of, with this bylaw, if we're letting the golf course and the employees that they're now going to hire to run this golf course to do on Sunday, which they've done for years, I understand that, but yet we can't open our pool and we can't open the curling rink or the skating rink, and like it just doesn't make sense. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. How do you justify that? I don't understand.
Well,
Because Sunday's the busiest day of the weekend at the golf course.
if I can justify that from a town administration perspective, is because we don't have town employees working there. Essentially, the bylaw was written, from my understanding of it, the bylaw was written to not have town employee work Sunday.
Right.
Essentially, that was the criteria. So town employees are not working on the golf course on Sunday.
But yet,
They would be.
But
Councillor
there
Yeah.
could be,
Selk first, and then-
right?
That's-
That's
that's
my
the plan.
point. That's my point.
but
Yeah.
now that we have a different
Right.
management model, it could well be.
Yeah,
So the bylaw is becoming less and less relevant,
that's right.
and that's a problem.
Councillor Selk.
policy.
All right, can I just pose a
Yep.
question? Jeff, wouldn't it be simpler if we rescind the bylaw, create a policy, and let administration administer?
If you want to deal with the political fallout, sure. That's all I'm throwing out there. Like I
This is
said,
what
5 years
happened.
ago, it was 3 words, and it was a huge deal.
you can
And-
see it on there, the numbers that were against that.
And then you just, yeah, I hear what you're saying, because again, we'd all wake up in the morning and nothing materially changed.
No.
Right, that's what would happen. One thing I should mention, the genesis of this was amended back in 2003, but it existed as part of the community services bylaw for years. So it does go way, way back. It just didn't exist on it as a standalone. And then there wasn't a community services board forever, and I remember at that time it was tweaked to just be standalone.
Councillor Brown, then Councillor,
Oh, sorry, nope.
you're okay?
During the Vince era, we must have had golf employees working on Sunday. How did they get around that? There wasn't a bylaw at the time?
There was, we just didn't abide.
Didn't enforce it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mayor.
this is where I have a problem. A bylaw is meant to be enforced. If this bylaw is non-enforceable, why do we have a bylaw to start with?
Exactly, have policy.
And why is it that council is all of a sudden busy creating bylaws for things that are under the authority or responsibility of the CAO? I don't quite understand how we got ourselves so mixed up.
So,
That's what my question is, and I understand what Councillor Selk is saying, because if a bylaw is not relevant, is non-enforceable, you shouldn't have that bylaw, or it should be totally revamped. One or the other. But what belongs to administration should be with administration, what belongs to council should be for council. But right now, we have a hodgepodge of something that's useless.
Councillor
At the
Gordon?
risk of having my phone ring off the hook, which is fine, on Tuesday, next Tuesday, I will make a motion to rescind this bylaw. We can go from there.
Well, Councillor, I appreciate your guts, because that takes guts.
Councillor Barnes,
Aye.
would council like a draft policy in place prior to rescinding?
Yep, absolutely.
I really
Okay.
think we need to have a policy that has teeth for you, to be able to do your work, and for us to be able to support you in what you're trying to do. It doesn't mean that the doors are open, free for all. That is not the intent.
There is a political piece to this. I mean, I've never explored it, but potentially there's a business case, for example, to have the rink open one Sunday a month for tournaments. Like there maybe is a business case. I'm not proposing I'm making that case. I'm just saying there's a political aspect to this. And there's going to have to be some political oversight of it, because if it just simply makes business sense, then I just say, yeah, run the tournament, away we go. Well, that's maybe not palatable to the community right now. There's a political piece there.
Understanding that.
So we'll look at how we can word that appropriately.
I really would like also to understand not only what you're trying to do, but understand how the communities as McGrath and Raymond have framed their policies.
So I've talked to them. They simply don't have them. They operate the facilities if it makes sense to do so, and they don't if it doesn't. That's where they've been going with it.
So strictly,
Yeah.
strictly from an economic return perspective, yes.
So ball diamonds is an example. I talked to Scott, and he says, our ball diamonds are used all the time on Sundays. And they always have been. There's the Mennonites Japanese league, or some players that play. He said they just know we're not there to chalk the lines or clean the washrooms. That's just what they understand. They go use it, and we're not maintaining it. That's what happens if you use it on Sunday.
So
Go ahead.
I think you're on the right track, Jeff. We'll,
I don't want to be on that. I want council to be on the track here.
no, I think we're all like-minded in that.
Yeah.
We simply want administration to be able to use common sense. What a novel idea that is. And it would extend to all facilities. I mean, having been involved in minor hockey many years ago, that was a big deterrent to ever having a hockey tournament here, is that we could never open a rink on Sunday. And so no team would even think of sponsoring a tournament because they didn't have Sunday ice. And I have to say, for the majority of the people in town, it doesn't matter if the rink's open on Sunday because they're not going there to play anyway.
And I really don't believe you'll see Sunday ball that much, because most of the people around here don't play on Sunday. At least they cannot put a tournament together, have the people.
I guess if you're having the priests quorum go out and play ball on Sunday, then that's up to the bishop.
But the truth
That's
is,
disorganized, that's unorganized.
but
Councillor
the truth
Brown?
is, they already have been, right? It's just,
Just
they
not
already have
organized.
been. They're just not asking us to do it, is the moral of the story. That we're still having people play on Sunday. I watch them.
Oh, yeah,
I
I see
live
it all
right
the
there.
time.
I see it.
Yeah.
But the trick is, we can't do anything about it, the way this is written.
No,
Well,
you
and
can't do
we
nothing.
want to.
Exactly.
It's non-enforceable, it's a
That's right.
bylaws, it's non-enforceable.
Which
So therefore,
is
why have a bylaw?
Exactly.
We might be trampling on charter rights too. if you
Well, we
use the
could put a
Sunday.
fine schedule in it and enforce it. I wouldn't say it's non-enforceable. You could put a
But the way
fine
it's written
schedule.
right now.
Yeah, there's no fine
But
schedule.
the way it's written
Yeah,
right now,
there's some-
without a fine schedule is,
And I think Councillor Court just made a good point. As soon as we started attaching fines to this, then we started getting into charter arguments with people who feel like we're infringing on
I
their
don't watch
rights.
Sunday
to-
sports anymore than anybody
to play
else,
ball
but
on
this is.
Sunday.
So I will work on a bit of a policy draft before we rescind, but when that's ready, I'll bring it back for some more discussion.
Okay.
Where, I guess the question I have is, where would you put in that excluding the golf course? Would that be part of the policy? Would that cover
Yeah.
part of that?
Yeah, we would just say that these are the, again, not having drafted this yet, but in my head, it's specific that that is a facility that the town operates on Sundays.
But it's managed by a separate group.
Well,
Could be, could.
depends if that's how it plays out or not, but, or if we just,
That could form part of the argument, is that we're not managing it.
Agrodrome's the same way. It's open Sundays. We're not managing it, but we own it.
It's not, just not open every Sunday.
It's open
No,
whenever
Yeah,
we want it to
but
be.
regardless, it's open.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So we have to be selective about what we turn a blind eye to.
Well, that was the argument I
Right?
had 6 years ago when we were going through this.
Yeah.
This is open, this is open, but this can't be open.
That makes no sense.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
But
I'll take the heat for it.
if you don't mind me saying, I really think we have to also realize we have a community that's very strong in their faith and that would like to see their faith respected.
Yes.
And I think we cannot be ignorant of that fact. The plebiscite tells us so.
Yeah.
So, it's how do you do it in such a way that it makes sense, but is respectful of the wishes of a community. So you can't ignore that argument either.
Oh, it's right here in the plebiscite.
And definitely a policy could work that in.
Okay, we'll
Absolutely.
do some work on that.
We also don't want backyard hens on Sunday either.
That's already in bylaw, so you're okay.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so moving on to other business, number 7, under 7A, the federal vagrancy proposal.
I must say, it's a very interesting
Yeah.
graph. And Alex, if you worked on that, thank you, because there is a lot that you considered regarding.
And everything that you'd like to get back, anything you'd like to add to it, or?
For this, something I would mind. We had our sergeant and senior do a presentation saying that quite often, if they have to enforce a good court with an issue that's related to vacancy, the first judge will ask them, do you have a friendship room? Do you have washrooms? If you don't have those two, why are you bugging me? Dismissed. And I'm thinking, oh, isn't it interesting that that becomes the first question? Which is in existence in most centers, town of decent size, would have washroom. That would solve a lot of the issues. But it all costs attached. I appreciate the fact that you did quite a bit of work. Now, years ago, Jeff, maybe you can help me remember that, when we had a phone call with Minister Hoffman, and we talked about our issue when they wanted to open that Suboxone clinic, etc. We were saying we do have other issues in town that need to be addressed. And she was not opposed to helping our town. And I was thinking, maybe that is another line. You have Alberta Health Services, but I'm wondering even Alberta Health, or the Minister of Alberta Health, could not be another contact regarding those issues. And try to see, can we even think of accessing funding through the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs? I don't know, but that's maybe another possibility.
Councillor Selk.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One, under enforcement 3B, it says that this is talking about the bylaw animal control liaison.
Yeah,
Says this position is currently vacant.
yeah, I was trying to understand that.
What's the answer?
Malcolm is done?
Malcolm moved to Calgary.
So,
We're gonna look at that close again, and we were kind of waiting to rehire until we polish this, and what did that look like exactly?
okay.
We don't have a huge demand for that position this time of year, just because it's so cold. So we thought, we've got a couple of months to figure out exactly what this might look like, and who would be the best support for that. So yeah, Malcolm ended up, I haven't told council this yet, but he moved to Calgary, so he's
Okay.
there.
All right. My second question, I think. So, Jeff, what do you need from us? A motion
Yeah.
to proceed with this as outlined unless we have other...
Recommendations.
Well,
Like our recommendation?
I'd like to polish it just one step more. When Alex has been working on it and I've been looking at it, I've been saying, okay, we picked 4 pillars here. We picked some categories. We want to put cost to it because at the end of the day, we're going to have to go fishing for resources. That's what it's all about. And so we got to drill down on those costs a little bit closer. We've thrown some numbers in right now for discussion's sake.
Right.
We don't think we've exhausted each category, or maybe we're worried we're not approaching it the same way council may have visioned us. So we're really just looking for that feedback right now, so we can add one more level of refinement to this proposal,
Okay.
to bring it back with better numbers, maybe additional programming, or take something out that's not appropriate. That's really what we're looking for today.
Okay, because in essence, this has to go to
The
Vermont's.
the MP is the intent, yes.
Okay.
Still one question. What
Go
have you
ahead.
thought about, you thought about location at all? Is it going to be here, going to be on home?
That was my question.
No, it
too.
would be
Normally they're
here.
off reserve, the Friendship Center.
They have
Yeah.
to be in town.
Yeah, normally they
Are we
are.
talking an existing building, a building that we're going to
Yeah.
have to...
Well,
That's all.
either,
Money we got.
whatever you can afford.
Yeah. We've got some ideas of existing facilities that may work.
Right,
Um,
right.
Yeah. So that's really what we're up to. I don't think it's where it needs to be to present,
Okay,
so we're looking for that critique on it.
can I
Yeah,
ask,
Mayor.
can I ask you something? Years ago, when Lloyd started to look at the idea of Friendship Center, we had a building in mind. We didn't totally have the programming as outlaid. You've done a great job at that. But the issue was the insurance. And I don't see nothing inside there that would be part of the funding that you would need.
So my feeling with the insurance, it's obviously something we have to consider. But I think it's also impacted greatly by what the programming and what the intent of the building is. If it's just a place for people to go in and hang out all day, you have some real risk there, and your insurance company interprets it as such.
Okay.
If it is staffed, if there are counseling services, if there is someone, it has hours that it's open, there's activities, it's not the risk your insurance company perceived it to be. But the original proposal was,
Just a
Place
place.
together.
Shopping center,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Just a place with a coffee
Yeah.
and whatever, water. and-
so I think we can mitigate that
Okay.
to some degree, not fully. We're going to have
Well, that'll be
liability
a cost, not
on any
doubt.
asset we buy.
Thank you.
And it's understood, I believe, Jeff, that this is ongoing. This isn't like a one-time to get the
Yeah.
cat
Yeah.
type of funding.
Yeah.
This has to be an ongoing commitment from the federal government.
Now, the building that you're referring to, Mayor, at one time, was that anywhere near downtown? Was that out the periphery of the town, or?
It was
Um,
just next to the laundromat,
Yeah.
Pardon me?
next to the laundromat on the 100 block, is what we were looking
That-
at
There
years
is a
ago.
room,
Years ago.
there is a room there, there was,
Talking Scottsburg.
Yeah, the closest.
Randy Jensen.
Yeah, Randy Jensen. That was the one years ago that was
Yeah.
discussed. Whether that's even an option, I don't know at this point, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's gotta be, it can't be downtown,
Right.
Main Street. That would be,
well, the main thing, when you have a friendship center, they are very often downtown, but it's not exactly the thing. The thing is, because they are where the people are, those people use those facilities, and while they are there, they're not on your street. Because now you offer them some constructive way to pass the time.
The Lethbridge one, I believe, is downtown. Is it just on
Yes.
Fifth there?
They're always
they've
downtown.
got several places.
Yeah, But essentially that downtown where the people are, you don't put them where people have to walk an undue amount of time to get there. That defeats the purpose. So it's being able to offer a service that mitigate the traffic on your main avenue. Essentially, that's the point.
I think that's one of the things that as we were running for council and when we took the time to listen to the business owners on Main Street, that's what they wanted. That's what they were talking about. It wasn't that they had a problem with having a drop-in friendship, whatever we're going to call it, center on Main Street. They would be thrilled to have just some place warm for them to go so they can socialize, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, and not be in and out of their stores. That's huge. It's huge.
No, I totally hear you, is what I understood too.
Has to be, yeah.
And so we cannot be so picky and
No,
choosy.
absolutely. The key is helping the people in Cardston be able to use Main Street, sorry.
Councillor Selk?
So, the only comment I have, Jeff, with respect to sort of beefing up this package was, I thought we were gonna include some video or pictures, try to demonstrate what the issue is with respect to.
Right. You know, when we put this together, I didn't think about building that case, by the way. I was thinking, once the case is made, but yeah, that's a good point.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I thought that was, I think that's part of the thing, that we need to have some visuals.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor.
And taken in the wintertime. I think that's a good aspect, to see people in the wintertime struggling on Main Street, what it's like. I think the seasons, that's very important to show.
Yeah.
Year round.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, and maybe I should have done this at the very beginning, when Alex and I whiteboarded this thing, trying to get it, we said, okay, we recognize that enforcement is certainly a piece of this, but it's not the underlying cause of it.
No.
And we're not sure we even think we're good enough that we can address the underlying cause. Okay, so we're looking to manage all these things. So when we looked at programming, that's why you see it as the biggest piece. It's giving these folks something to do, a safe place to go and all that. But what the hope is too, is if we have someone that gets to build a relationship, we need stronger relationships with all the other agencies so that we are more successful in referral. And the mayor, what you alluded to in that conversation with Minister Hoffman is, and you'll remember we asked the question, does Alberta Health Services know these people? No, they don't.
No. And that was an issue for us, that here we have a problem, they recognize we have a problem, but there is no initiative to correct.
And I don't blame Alberta Health for that approach. They can't have a system where they're going out soliciting patients. We have a system where you go when you have the need voluntarily. That's the point. But we thought if we can get a place and programming and we have that right person, they can start to say, hey, I know someone that could help you with this. Would you be willing to go with me right now there? Yeah, you bet, let's go. And they build that rapport over some time and be able to refer better, but we don't have the relationships either. So you see that in the programming piece with the different agencies. We're not there on that relationship basis yet. We're not in a position to run somebody to St. Paul's. We're not in a position to run somebody to detox right now. We haven't established that. And then the other piece of it is on the legal, we know enforcement's not the end goal here. The punitive punishment is the end goal. But we thought if we could get some resources to bring somebody in, maybe a former Crown prosecutor, for example, and say, look, for the enforcement side, for it to be effective and for it to steer these people in the right direction, we're going to need to revamp bylaws. We're going to need to have a real campaign with the provincial justice system on what we're trying to do. So there's almost this lobbying piece and there's this rewriting piece and all this we see, but that takes a lot of resources. It's expensive. And so that was kind of on the enforcement piece what we were mostly looking at. It wasn't to create bylaws for the sake of writing tickets for every little thing.
Right.
It was for the sake of making effective enforcement that's directing the offender in the right place. That's the hope.
Question I have, Jeff, is do we have kind of a timeline here that we're working with on?
If I ask Councillor Selk, it's Wednesday. And then if I...
No, it was yesterday.
It was last Wednesday. Sorry, last Wednesday, my mistake. The first of the month. It's as soon as we can polish this thing. I hope, even if I can bring it back to just not next Tuesday, because that gives me 2 days, but the one after that council meeting,
Yeah.
for a motion to send it to the MP. That would be the hope here.
And then there's a process in place.
Then we have to
We'll take
decide
some
how we, what's the old term, you eat the elephant one bite at a time, right? How are we going about it?
Right. Councillor Court?
That the AUMA, and who else went with me to that meeting where they were talking, was it you? We could maybe use them for some expertise.
And who was that, Councillor?
Oh, I'm trying to think.
Was it the Department of Indigenous Relations?
Yeah,
Is that who it was?
well,
What was her name? It was a Scout, wasn't it? Her last name Scout.
I'll go back and I'll
Okay,
tell you.
yeah.
Like, yeah. That could be a good
I'll remind you.
source.
Yeah.
I thought that was based out of the city of Lethbridge.
It was,
People that
It
spoke
was,
were-
yeah, they were from the city
you
of
went in the morning and
Lethbridge.
I went in the afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
that was
did.
City of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
It was Mayor Spearman that was kind of spearheading that one.
I had your book in there too,
Okay.
2 days ago. Here you go.
Okay, well, we'll start to polish this a bit. We'll drill down on our numbers just a bit.
Okay.
We'll address some of that preparation we didn't in this one, Councillor Selk, how we're going to prep a bunch of that and what those resources are needed. And I'll bring it back to you as soon as I can.
I must say thank you so much
Yeah,
for all that
it's really
work,
good.
because honestly, it has been
Don't get too
Very-
comfortable.
very informative, and if we can
What's
get
next?
something out of
Oh,
it,
yeah,
it would be great.
you're good on
Okay, the
this
next
next
one, 7B, Gulf Advisory Committee, discussion of forming committee. Jeff will be speaking to this.
Should just, we don't have any more delegations, I should just pull the deal. Very simply, well, I wasn't here last meeting, but you guys touched on this last meeting of, do we want to put a golf advisory committee in place to liaise between the Windmill Group and the town and to bring recommendations about the golf course to council, representing the members' interests?
Councillor Selk,
Sorry, I don't.
you'd like to be on that committee?
Sure, but I had a discussion with some members of a group that made a presentation regarding the golf course. They would like to have, I mean, we've worded it as a golf advisory committee. They're talking about a golf association for this end, that they believe if they have a golf association or whatever we phrase it, then they can get into the fundraising because they want to fundraise for a clubhouse. They want to fundraise for improvements to the golf course. I think it's a spectacular idea because it allows them to do what they need to do in order to get the golf course into the kind of position we want it to be in.
Like a real support group as opposed to just advising. Councillor Drew?
So I took an opportunity to talk to the mayor of McGrath about their situation, and they have it set up that way. So the town's kind of at arm's length, and they have an association that deals with the golf course. So I think that would probably be...
Mayor?
I'm just trying to understand how we want to do that to go along with Councillor Selk's idea. Is this year a wise thing to form a committee right away? Or is it wiser to start with that group as the advisory? And in 10 months, when the contract comes back open, then we will have a sense how it works and how much further autonomy we could give that advisory committee to become an association. I'm just thinking, should we go for a transition with the advisory, of which some people of that who are interested should be part of, and then move further to a next step?
That would maybe solve your Sunday use problem, because now it's a step away from the town. It's kind of like the agrodome is being run right now.
It would depend on that level of autonomy you want to give them immediately.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm wondering, are we maybe need to have that hybrid kind of model for now and kind of test it a little bit better without having ourselves worried for the next 10 months and then move on, but have them starting to come into the picture.
Councillor Selk, go ahead.
My only thought on that is that we have a group of motivated citizens who do want to start doing something for the golf course in terms of clubhouse in terms of, you know, sprucing it up, so.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, here's what I'm hearing. We may just have an issue of semantics here as to what we're calling it, first of all.
Okay.
Right.
And the second is, we may be able to amend the amount of autonomy this group has as time goes on.
Yep.
So we have some willing people, we should potentially capitalize on their willingness right now, and grab them under some umbrella.
Right.
And then we decide as this contract moves on, that level of autonomy over time. I could draft a term of reference for something relatively simple to get them going, get them formalized, and we could chew on that next week.
Yep.
Is that something?
I think it would be a good thing. Yeah,
Sounds good.
good.
So,
Trying to set an
everybody kind of on board with
Okay,
that?
do you want a recommendation?
I always struggle with motions in CCW, frankly, when you're directing administration, but, because I don't really know how we're supposed to deal with them. You're
It's a
not making a motion to
recommendation.
council for anything at this point.
It's a recommendation
But if you
to
want
administration.
If you want to direct administration for something, you bet.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll do something like that. Move to direct administration to draft terms of reference for a advisory committee with various level of autonomy described into it. You can reword it.
In terms of reference, I think.
Yes, that's what I've mentioned.
Okay,
Get off that, Jill.
got that? Everybody understand that? Yeah. All in favor?
Go ahead, vote. Go ahead, vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah. Are we kind of of the mind that right now small is agile and manageable?
Yeah.
Like we're not looking at 11 people around the table?
No.
Okay, good. I'm with you on that. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we're talking 3 or 4, aren't we?
Yeah, that's what I was
Well,
Yeah,
And then we'll see how this develops.
okay.
They might expand.
It
Yeah.
might expand.
but when they're
As
autonomous,
necessary.
there will be,
Yeah. Okay, next item is a letter to the public regarding the windmill group. You had a chance to read that over. Are there any questions on that or anything that you'd like to see changed or added?
I have
Mary?
a comment. Jeff, as well, thank you so much because it's a very good background. The only thing is in your fourth paragraph, there are something we discussed that I was wondering if it would be useful to add. We were talking about economy of scale as being one element that was important for the choice we made.
Are you meaning like purchasing power when you
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
economy scale? Okay.
Yeah, purchasing power on a large scale, right. And also the fact that they are going to be looking at local hiring.
Yes.
So those were the two elements that I thought
Should
maybe
be in there.
could be added. Otherwise, I think you covered it all. So thank you. And by the way, I wrote a letter to the citizens and I kind of put a rationale regarding that contract with Windmill. So we should have that letter in the next newspaper, I suppose,
It might be the one after this.
or the one after
I'll
that.
check on that.
Okay,
But
whichever.
this is something that can go on our webpage too and on our
That's what we,
arts and discussion.
that's what we
groups.
had said, yeah.
Okay,
This is a full letter, and what I did is only the rationale.
okay. All right, any other comments on this? So everybody's in agreement, we go ahead with this then?
I'll bring the
You'll
whole
bring us a
thing
draft
next
or you
meeting
bring
and
us
it'll be
for next meeting?
all polished up, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, D, business arising from the delegations that we had.
Well, I think we spoke
You may be
about
fine here.
the Chautauqua, I think we did that quite well.
Yep,
Go to 7E.
pardon me?
Go to 7E.
Okay. Okay, we'll go, the mayor had
Okay.
a Selk Grove request.
Okay, on March 7, there is a presentation of the investment document that was created for all the municipalities, each municipalities. And they would like to have council know that there are 2 people from our town, meaning maybe the people who are on ECDEV, and myself, because I'm on the executive, who are invited. So there are 2 invitations per municipalities, and the board members are taken care of. So if there are some who would like to go there, it's on March the 7th. There will be a speaker that is Doug Griffith, who was a former municipal affairs minister, who wrote the 13 Ways to Kill the Communities. And it's going to be quite interesting, I think.
Where's that being held at?
At the lodge.
In that bridge?
Yeah. So you would, Alex, are you able to go?
I believe I should be able to.
And Councillor Selk, are you able to go? Maybe we could all go together in one car, do something like that.
So the
Okay,
3 of you
thanks.
going, Jeff, are you going to that too?
I'll probably just.
Alex,
No.
the mayor, and Councillor Selk then?
So that is this. The other one I just received today, and it's a little bit a more complex thing. I sent it to you. It's regarding a conference that's happening in Winnipeg, but now I find out it's the 21st, 22nd of February. It's expenses paid, which surprised me. It had to do with ECDEV. It's to do with Aboriginal economic development. It's a national conference for them. And somehow they have sent through Tim Telfeathers, who is the rep for South Grove, sent South Grove an invitation to attend. And it's a very rare occasion. Honestly, it's the very first time that happened. So here's a conundrum South Grove has. The chair cannot go, and the CEO cannot go. So I was wondering, and I asked them, because I think going for conference just for the sake of going to conference is not my idea of passing time. So what was said here, I wanted to know what the benefit would be to go to such conference for South Grove to begin with. And what Peter sent back is really the benefit that I can see is the networking and coming to rub shoulders with those who are in leadership. And I'm thinking, is that worth something to us? And should we do something about it?
When is that? February?
21st, 22nd, I just got it today.
Next week?
Yeah, 2 weeks time.
Are you suggesting you'd like to go there?
I don't know if I want to go, but I'm passing it by you to tell me, would that be something you would support? And I asked, how can all be paid? How come it's all paid? Well, here's how it is. They had a ticket that was given to the city of Lethbridge, and the mayor cannot go. So Tim Telfeather was given the opportunity to redirect that ticket to an organization that he felt would be a good fit, and he chose South Grove. Yes.
Mayor, I think it's a great opportunity for you. We're a touch point with Blood Tribe, so
Well, that's what.
I think it'd be great for you to go.
Yep.
Make some contact.
Okay, I'll take that as advisement right now, and if nobody else wants to go, I will do my best.
And that's in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
Okay, so there'd be per diems involved there?
Yes.
You know, I'm not worried about the per diem.
Mayor, you've told us many times when we got
I know.
these things that we need to
I know.
put in for our per diems, and I think the
Well,
precedence
whatever.
is there.
Yeah, well, we can always figure it out.
I'll support you on that. So, what do you need, Mayor, a recommendation for us?
I would imagine,
'Cause
put a recommendation in principle,
I'll make that recommendation, that the mayor can.
because I will have to decide if nobody else wants to go, what I'm going to do.
I think for the first time, I think it's a very important thing that the mayor be the person there.
Mayor's a swamp.
So I make that recommendation.
And what does that include in that recommendation?
The
No
mayor
idea.
attend this economic development.
Can do
conference.
is call.
Other costs that are not.
All the associated costs, whether per diems and other such things that aren't covered by South Grove,
Okay.
that we'll take.
How do you get there?
Thank you. Well, I have to find out, first of all, I need to,
Because I know WestJet has some pretty reasonable prices.
well,
Well,
we shall figure it out.
Okay, go ahead.
Since Jeff's gone, just as a recommendation to council to make the motion.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can't make anything binding here.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion on the table. All in favor?
Not a motion, it's a
Thank you.
recommendation.
Or recommendation, I should say.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good. So we're moving into correspondence before we go into camera. And there's some snacks here, I guess. So we'll read over this correspondence and then we'll have a motion for a break.
If you don't mind me, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'd like to comment on Mr. Mel and of a picture. It was a lovely thank you, and I must say, I had today quite a few people thanking me and thanking the town for the quick removal of the snow. I hope you have received some similar kudos, because the staff of the Public Works has done an extremely good work.
Just for your information, between Wednesday and Friday, 35 centimeters are coming.
I'm just sending Bart the forecast right now.
We got a major storm coming, not just a
Well,
snowball warning.
he already can line up his crew. They make quite a bit of it. That's brutal.
I'll be sleeping this week.
I thought that was a really good letter. And then we've got the letter from the minister on Minister's Awards. And if you can,
Well, there is something there that should be said.
okay?
Every time it comes around, I keep on saying, you know, we should blow our horns a little bit louder than what we do. We have done some things that very, very few municipalities do, and I don't really know that in Alberta there are other municipalities that had the courage to call for an auditor to help us towards governance excellence. And we've done it, and it served us well. And I really wish more towns in Alberta would do the same, because in doing the same, they would have less problem, less turnover of CEO and council members, and less feeling of frustration in so many councils. So I must also say that Jeff has pushed that ability to do governance at his very best one level further, and is going to have the privilege to work with our guru. You want to talk about it a little bit?
I'll have it coming up a little bit, because I'm gonna, I'll talk
Okay,
about it a little later.
okay, I'll go in one of your CEO letters.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mayor, also, along with that, you've taken the initiative that every councillor that sits on a committee, that those committees have a governance model in place.
Well,
And I
that's-
think that's so important, that, you know, our committees have their governance in place.
Yes, yeah.
I-
And anyway, so I really don't know, Jeff, you keep on telling me that you don't think we are eligible for all those things, but
That's still my position. It
it's
just-
still your
with what they're
position.
looking at, that's not something that fits.
Isn't it too bad? I wish it would.
Jeff, would our solar initiative fit one of their criteria?
It
We could
does-
apply, but I'll be honest, it's being duplicated so rapidly
Yeah,
across the
yeah.
province right
I know,
now.
but when we're-
It just won't stick out.
When
No.
we're first initializing it?
As a small
You
town.
could take a stab at it, but again, it's being duplicated so
No.
rapidly right now.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, especially in northern part of Alberta.
Yeah, it's happening everywhere now.
It was started in northern Alberta in small towns long time ago. Southern Alberta, we were probably the first.
That's what I was looking at.
But I really think that probably we could, I like where it says formally recognizes excellence in local government practices and promotes knowledge sharing.
And that's,
George Cup fits that criteria, in my opinion. And the last meeting we went to in Claire's home, we all went there, and George Cup came to our table and asked us if he could use the information from our community as an example, because he felt that we were doing those things. I think that's really important that we do that. You know, I've been to lots of conferences, and I've had many counselors from other communities come and say, what makes you guys so economically viable? What makes you guys tick? Why your CEO is doing a great job, your counselor's doing a great job? And I say, because we followed the governance rules that we had George Cup come down. As soon as we say that, say, oh my goodness, we can't afford to have that. And I say the same thing every time. You can't afford not to have him come. It would really help your community if they had him come.
Yeah,
So-
well,
Anyways, but I think we should maybe try.
and, well, you know something, if Jeff feels it doesn't fit, he knows the criteria better than I do.
It's tricky.
Okay.
All right. So at this point in time,
motion for recess?
motion for recess, all in favor? Okay, we'll take a few minutes. Mr. Schaefer was here.
He'll be back.
He'll be back, and then we'll move on to him after. Okay?
I don't